Hi, it's Alex Cosper with SacTV.com. Welcome to another studio chat here in my home recording studio. But it's also my research center where I do lots of writing and research on reports. It's something I've done for years and years and years. I've written for many websites now and for over 25 different industries, including healthcare. I can't say I'm an expert in any of these industries, but I've studied and written enough about these industries that I can at least do a video that summarizes some of what I know. So once again, I'm not an expert, so don't take this as me being some medical authority. I'm not. I'm not a doctor. I don't have any education in the medical field. However, I've done so much research on my own because I care about my own health, and I think everyone should, at least. That's one opinion I'm not going to change. Everyone should care about their own health to the point where you are the decision maker of what happens to your body, not anyone else, not even people who claim to be medical experts, unless you are incapacitated to the point where you cannot make decisions for yourself and you need that medical support from experts. The one thing I've found, it's a common theme, it's kind of in a bunch of industries, is that all these different industries, these modern industries of the past century, are heavily impacted by the oil industry. Okay, my last video was about the oil industry, and that told you how that industry took control of several industries as part of its empire to be greedy and powerful and just control society. Now that all sounds like conspiracy theory, and I don't think it should be considered that. I think everyone should wake up and forget about television. Like, most of the garbage you see on television just is worthless. Some of it is good entertainment, maybe, if you stretch the definition of entertainment. But as far as health, oh man, that's the worst thing you could dial into is television, because it's constantly bombarding you with sponsors, and all their sponsors, well, not all, but a majority of those sponsors are tied to the oil industry, which is directly responsible for a lot of people's poor health. Now, I just looked at a survey of people's health in America. I consider myself to be in excellent health because I take care of myself, doing the 5 things that you should be doing to avoid poor health. And those 5 things are nutrition. Okay, everyone should care about what they eat. And that doesn't mean whatever tastes good. That's what fools a lot of people. Because if you eat garbage just based on what tastes good, you're going to be filling yourself up with all kinds of chemicals and bad stuff. Because a lot of these food manufacturers, they don't care about your health. They care about profits. And in order to increase profits and keep them expanding over time, they sell you cheap garbage chemicals that taste good, because they've done the research and they found out, that people will respond to their taste buds more than their brain when it comes to defining what's best to put in your body. People just aren't trained in school, like just regular school, grade school, junior high, high school, even college. They don't. There's healthcare classes, or there's health and nutrition classes, they don't really get into the reality of what you need to know, which is that the oil industry is at the core of the food industry, and that the oil industry, you know, creates a lot of chemicals that are then put in food. We're talking petrochemicals, okay, stuff that eventually becomes petroleum. Okay, that's in a lot of food, okay, not because it's good for you, it's because it's profitable for those companies. And then states and the United States are supposed, the FDA are supposed to regulate this. They've been really weak at that over the years. They've been more favorable to corporations, and that's because FDA heads end up working for these corporations. So they try to be nice to these companies, and not have too many recalls or restrictions on chemicals that go into food. Now, the Trump administration, of course, hired Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has sued a lot of polluters, you know, uh, who have threatened our health. And I think that's one bright spot in Trump's administration. It's kind of a wacky, made-for-television goofball administration full of psychopaths, if you ask me. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who gets tagged by big dumb media as some kind of idiot or some kind of psychopath, I think that's unfair, because he has a true record of actually cracking down on some of these horrible companies that have poisoned our food. Okay, so I don't have anything against him, other than sometimes he's a little unclear about where he stands on some of these issues. Like, he flip-flops just like anybody else in government. You know, they say one thing before they're elected and a completely opposite after they're elected. But he has gotten some things changed through the Health and Human Services that he runs, which is getting rid of some of these poisonous chemicals that are put in conventional food. Now, I shop for food at places like Whole Foods Market, and I would say about 20% of their products are organic. And that is supposed to be pesticide free, but not quite. The government always has its own different definition of what the human mind might come up with on its own. And the government definition allows for some poison to be slipped into your food. These pesticides, these awful chemicals, this garbage made by Monsanto, who they've been pulling back on their Roundup and stuff like that. That stuff's going to be gone someday, I hope. Several countries have banned it. So you got to understand that where your food comes from is it affects your health. Because if you don't know where your food comes from, chances are then you're just eating garbage. But if you know, okay, I'm buying organic food, so that's 95% pesticide free. Natural food can mean anything by the government's definition. It just has to originate here on Earth to be called natural. Whereas organic, it has to go through a certain process, and avoiding these dangerous pesticides. So anyway, I watch what I eat. I don't eat much fast food. Here and there I do, because if you keep it, under control and you don't eat a lot of fast food, I don't think it hurts you that much. However, if all you eat is fast food all the time and you eat a lot of it, I think you're subjecting yourself to lots of chemicals that are harmful to the human body. Now, in Sacramento, the top employers, besides the state government, tend to be healthcare facilities. So you got UC Davis, Kaiser Permanente, Sutter Health, three big health organizations here in Sacramento, and they are among the top employers in Sacramento. Yet it still seems like there's this nursing shortage and this health worker shortage in town, and I know people who go to Kaiser, and so they're in that emergency room waiting and waiting and waiting. It seems like it takes forever sometimes. Um, it seems like they're understaffed, but I don't know. It just seems that way. Um, anyway, with all this health care that's supposed to be a big, big, big part of our economy, it turns out something like, even though over 90% of Americans have some kind of health insurance, something like 20% have some kind of healthcare debt, and for a lot of those people, it's like $10,000 or more in debt. So you have the high healthcare costs. Part of that has to do with being understaffed, and another part of it is the high cost of pharmaceutical drugs. And we can get into that in some other video where, I mean, that's its own thing where, okay, are people getting ripped off by this industry? Sure they are. It's a very greedy industry. A lot of pharma companies have had to pay huge fines, penalties in court for marketing fraud. Saying the drug would do something that it didn't, or dangerous drugs have been recalled. So there's reason to not just accept this as, oh, modern medicine, it's all good, because some of it can hurt you and some of it can even kill you, because if the hospital doesn't diagnose you properly and they give you a ton of drugs, which I would hope would not happen to you. I myself don't take any. In the past 10 years, I've spent zero on the pharma industry and the healthcare industry, because I take care of the 5 things you're supposed to do to protect your health. And mainly that would be your immune system, which is in this area of the body here. You want to protect your immune system, which is your free medical care system that nature gave you. And to get too deep into this topic starts to get political, which I hate. I hate the fact that people cloud reality with politics so much, especially in the Trump slash Biden slash Trump era. You've had, Trump and Biden are two dishonest people who basically fooled a lot of people. They're really far right wingers, and they've posed as other things, but they're on the side of corporations, okay? And if you thought otherwise, you were fooled, okay? I'm sorry about that. Kamala Harris didn't really get to say much about what she was about, but she was on the side of Biden, of course, only because he picked her as his vice president, and she might not have been as demented as Biden or demented as Trump. Seems like those are requirements for the presidency now, is dementia. And you could look at both of those guys as poor posture. That's part of bad health, is if you keep leaning over, gravity keeps pulling you to the ground. If you stood up straight, that could help your health. That's just a tip, okay? I'm not saying you have to do that, but sitting up straight, standing up straight, that is a key to good health. Now, the other 5 things that people should know are keys to having a strong immune system, which fights disease and fights all that stuff so that you don't have to go to the hospital, would be nutrition. It's got to be, real food that comes from the earth, not that chemical garbage that comes from a lab that's full of the oil industry products. Um, Even medicine is an oil industry product, and if you take too much of it mindlessly, it's going to make you sicker, probably. So even if a doctor prescribes all these drugs, it's smart to get a second opinion from a medical expert to find out, do you need to be taking 15 drugs at once? I would never want to do that. Okay, so anyway, nutrition, that's one. Another is exercise. That's physical exercise. I just walk every day, and that's good enough. I walk about a mile every day, sometimes more than that. Um, the third one would be sunlight. You need sunshine, and that's downplayed by big dumb media. They want you to think that you're going to get cancer if you spend too much time in the sun. And yeah, if you're not careful, you're not using lotion, and you're just in the sun all day, that can cause skin cancer. However, if you get about 15 minutes of sunlight a day, you're probably not going to get skin cancer just from that. And then relaxation, rest and relaxation, that's the fourth thing. You need enough of that. You need enough sleep so that your mind can reset itself, and your body can reset itself at night. And then the fifth thing is just positive energy. Just I'm always laughing at stuff, especially government. Trump's funny. He's an idiot, so that makes him funny. Biden was an idiot, so that made him funny. And of course, we've had this thing going on now since 2017 of horrible, demented presidents through 2025. I don't think Obama was demented. I think he was one of our smarter presidents. Of course, he was on the side of big oil, so he increased oil production and was bragging about it. Even though when he ran for president, he acted like he was coming down hard on that industry. And the war industry, he was very much against that, and then very much into it once he became president. And I think the presidency is a club of these, elites that are, if they're not brainwashed by the time they get to the White House, they become brainwashed by the elites who are the ones who fund these campaigns, big corporate donors and these big billionaire people. And so that would explain Trump, why he was pretending to be liberal on certain things during the campaign and then totally went full-on right-wing after he became president. But do you think Trump is an expert on health? I don't think so. The way he leans like this, the way he eats junk food, nothing but garbage, like McDonald's. Anyone who brags about eating at McDonald's has a mental deficiency, okay, because no one should be eating that garbage. Okay, it's full of chemicals that are probably going to make you ill someday if you eat nothing but that. So anyway, I just want to point out that everyone can be in control of their health. I'm not going to be healthy forever. I'm 62, going on 63 this year in 2025. But like I said, I haven't had to go to the doctor once in the past decade. And it's because I take care of myself. Those 5 things I mentioned that everyone should have written down somewhere and memorized, because this isn't just my opinion. This is I learned this from health experts, okay? So even though I'm not a health expert and I don't have the certifications to give any medical advice to anyone, I'm just letting you know that I take care of myself. So that's the main thing. I trust my judgment better than any medical professional about me, okay? My health and my concerns. And when something seems wrong about my health, I investigate it. I start experimenting with food, seeing, okay, this is this health problem, and it doesn't happen much. I mean, I get little aches and pains here and there because I take care of myself so well. But even when these little aches and pains come, I realize that pain is not, pain itself is not the problem. Pain is a sign of a problem. So I think of it because I came from the radio industry where I learned a lot about other industries because I interviewed a lot of people. I think of radio as a signal itself. What you're listening to when you listen to the radio is a signal, okay? And it's just like pain is a signal. It's, you know, it's something to tell you that something's wrong about your body. It's not the pain itself that's wrong, although it's good to reduce pain, and I believe people can do that because I can do it for myself. I'm able to reduce pain through mental activity. In other words, I just imagine the pain goes away and it magically goes away. Okay, that works for me. I don't know if anyone else out there would agree with that or could handle that concept because we're so brainwashed by the big dumb media, the big medical industry, which you're just supposed to bow down and pray to, even though they actually have killed more people than almost any other industry because hospital accidental deaths are big, and it doesn't get reported that much in big dumb media. Why? Because a big sponsor of big dumb media is big pharma, healthcare, so they protect their sponsors. That's why I laugh at big dumb media. I'm talking about the big TV networks, all of them. I'm not talking about just some of them. I'm not talking about just the Democratic ones or just the Republican ones. I'm talking about all of them as part of this cartel. Okay, they all have the same sponsors. They all promote big pharma. They have different political views, and that's what confuses people. They think that, these are each their own entities. No, they're all combined as a cartel through big shareholders. The same big companies own them that own most of the big corporations in America. Okay. The most important thing to know is that we've been told lots of myths about health through big dumb media, which is there to protect their sponsors. And they have always had medical shows going way back to the 60s. There was a show called Medical Center. There was, there are too many to name, but those shows actually brainwashed people into thinking that they were real doctors. Marcus Welby, when they're just actors, and it's scripts and it doesn't necessarily follow reality. So people have to learn about their own health care, and it's not that hard to learn. The 5 things I mentioned, nutrition, again, that's not just what tastes good, because that's what marketers want. Marketers want you to just buy what tastes good. They don't want you to care about your health, because if you cared about your health, you'd have to knock a bunch of Fritos, corn chips, and all this processed garbage out of your diet. And there's social media where people apparently Facebook's algorithm favors people who promote junk food products, and I think that makes them a sorry website. Even though I use it to connect with my friends, there's sorry mentality there. Sorry that the corporate mentality isn't the best mentality. The corporate mentality is designed to get profits regardless of anything else. You're just out to get profits. You don't care about anyone's safety. You're just trying to suck money out of them. And Facebook seems to promote this idea of lots of garbagey junk food is good and happy, makes you feel good. Just like sporting events make you feel good about all the junk they package with it, unhealthy junk. So anyway, the best way to avoid, I think, poor health, assuming you were born healthy, and most people are born healthy, but then they're thrown into this world of poisons and toxins and chemicals that are just everywhere, that reflect industrialization. Some people call it modern, society. Um, it's all about greed. It's all about making money. So you have to distance yourself from the market, I think, and think of health first. That's what I do. Whatever I put into my body, the first thing I want to know about is it nutritious? Is it giving me anything? If it's just sugar, then it's not that good for you. Okay, if it's just salt, it's not that good for you. If it's processed crackery crap made of dough, it doesn't have much nutrients to it. Okay, a lot of garbage on the market, the conventional foods at normal supermarkets, it's just designed to taste good and that's it. It's not designed to make you feel better or make you live a healthy life. So you have to be your own expert on nutrition. And maybe your doctor is an expert on that, but not all doctors are trained to understand nutrition. That's what makes it sketchy. Okay? And keep in mind, the medical industry, healthcare industry, pharma industry, they faced huge lawsuits over malpractice and just, I'd say, incompetence and greed all mixed together. So you have to be careful. I have studied the periodic table to get a better view of science, but I don't think everybody has to learn all these, all the different elements that make up, our food supply. Just know that a lot of it is made of carbon, and there's a lot of carbonated drinks, and you only can put so much carbon in your body, even though carbon is the key to life. It's also the key to death. So try not to overdo it with carbon, and sugar is heavy carbon. Um, I like fruits and vegetables better than any other kind of foods. I also like nuts, and I I can't say I'm 100% vegetarian, and I don't know if that even matters, but I would say I'm at least 75% vegetarian, and I don't eat hamburgers anymore, and I don't eat steak. Anything that I think is can be harmful to health over time, I just try to avoid it. So I mean, I'm more into I like bean burritos; those are good, and I like salads, and I like mixing a lot of veggies together in kind of a casserole type thing. I think pasta's all right if you don't overdo it. Um, and the drinks, I like kombucha, which is a probiotic drink. It's just slightly fermented. It's good for your immune system. At least it's been good for mine. Um, and so, anyway, I just want to get back to the idea that we have to understand that this medical world we live in was forced on us by the oil industry. Okay, they made their products, spill over into all these other different industries. And so I want to leave you with a song. I'm a songwriter. I tend to, end these videos with my own original music, and I'm not just here to promote myself as a singer songwriter. I write songs with a purpose that have some kind of meaning to it, which is unlike top 40 music, which is mostly garbage. It's kind of like, you know, junk food is top 40 music. The stuff that's marketed for mass consumption is usually garbage music these days. Not last century, you had the Beatles and you had a lot of cool bands that had messages like Rush, and Tom Petty, and you know, it just the Who even had message songs, and I could go down the list of just lots of meaningful artists who were trying to help society with their songwriting. Whereas today, it's just lots of commercial stuff, and that's because the music industry is now run by three big labels instead of six, which was last century. And also last century, you had a lot of independent labels adding to the national scene of music. This century, not so much. It's just big labels pounding you with the same boring, watered down formulas of meaningless songs. So let me end with a song that I wrote about the medical industry and how it all changed back in 1910. Prior to 1910, medical schools and medical facilities were full of books on natural, and I mean that in the real way, natural remedies that could help you. But starting in 1910, this thing called the Flexner Report, which was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie, and then later he teamed up with the Rockefeller Foundation, and they funded this transformation from natural medicine to oil-based medicine as a favor to the oil industry, the Rockefellers. So Rockefeller funded all these medical schools only if they refused, or only if they agreed to avoid natural medicine and throw out all those books and replace them with the new free books on oil-based medicine. That happened in 1910 following the Flexner Report. And here's my song about that. It's called 1910 Medicine.
big bongo. Let's learn from nature. Never quit learning from nature. Let's learn from nature. Never quit learning from nature. Let's learn from nature.